Welcome to our weekly roundup of key economic and business developments in Sri Lanka. I'm Nishani Piguera, and here are this week's top stories. Gradual rebound in economy despite contraction, says central bank. Japan and Sri Lanka to restart stalled projects post-debt restructure. Authorities warn of food shortage due to drought. In our top story this week, on Monday, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, issuing its inaugural monetary report, stated that a gradual economic turnaround in the country is expected this year, despite the contraction in the first half. The report said that favorable conditions are expected to support the economy in reaching its full capacity over the medium term. It attributed such positive developments to the easing of monetary policy, boosting investment and consumer spending, improved economic activity among Sri Lanka's major trading partners, driving the country's exports, as well as the implementation of structural reforms and increased efficiency in the public sector. According to the Ministry of Finance, more than 94% of remaining holders of dollar-denominated Sri Lanka development bonds have agreed to exchange for longer-term rupee bonds. This includes bonds worth $814 million held by institutional investors. The ministry added that on the settlement date, the Republic will issue new bonds to eligible holders in accordance with the relevant exchange form submitted by each such eligible holder. On Monday, Fujimaru Satoshi, Minister of State in the Cabinet Office of Japan, and President Ranil Wickremesinghe agreed to recommence work on the stalled Japan-funded development projects following the completion of Sri Lanka's debt optimization process. In 2020, the then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa unilaterally cancelled the Japan-funded light rail transit project. This strained diplomatic ties between the two nations, which was aggravated by the termination of the East Container Terminal project, in which Japan was also a co-investor. The Ministry of Agriculture decided to suspend the use of rice for the production of animal feed and beer. This is as arid weather conditions in the country are likely to result in food shortages. According to news reports, farmers are facing difficulties in reaping a harvest due to the lack of water, and they have been protesting for over a week, demanding the release of water from the Samanala River. However, the Ceylon Electricity Board warned that should water from the Samanala River be released, a 3-hour power outage would have to be imposed for the southern province. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology said there will not be sufficient rainfall until this October, and that the southwest monsoon did not bring sufficient rain due to the El Nino effect. In July, 143,039 tourists arrived in the country, surpassing March peak season traveler numbers. This pushed the year-to-date visitor tally to over 767,000, a significant 67% higher from a year earlier. This week's arrivals increased the month's daily arrivals to 4,614, also a record high for the year. In July, India accounted for 16% of the arrivals, followed by the United Kingdom and China. Colombo-centric inflation fell to single digits for the first time in 19 months. Significantly, food prices experienced deflation, falling 1.4% from a year earlier, while non-food prices grew 10.5%. Such allows for the central bank to further cut interest rates, which was reduced by 450 basis points since June. The next policy rate meeting is set for the 24th of August. While on Thursday, water tariffs were increased between 30 to 50%. This is to contain losses at the National Water Services and Drainage Board. However, according to the General Manager of the Water Board, low-income earning families will not be affected by this price adjustment. Now let's take a look at the weekly movement of the All-Share Price Index and the S&P SL 20 Index at the Colombo Stock Exchange. At the Treasury bill auction held on Wednesday, yields on all maturities continue to expand for the third consecutive week. Bids amounting to 363 billion were received, of which 180 billion rupees were accepted. The Sri Lankan rupee was volatile against the dollar this week, with the central bank's indicative mid-spot rate ranging between 314 and 329. And with that, we wind up for this week. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel at the link below for regular updates on economic and business developments in Sri Lanka. Until we see you again next week, thank you for watching. Stay safe.